Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Draskyl here with another video. Today, we're going to be talking about a couple of things that people do wrong in Dota when they're trying to learn, or thought processes that go on that are just something that we have to do away with so that we can kind of get better at the game. So, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about in the video. There's a very common thing where I call it my game is everyone's game. Basically what that means, if your game's going bad, your mentality about the game is bad. So you die a few times, you know, you're a core, you're a support, you have a bad start, therefore everybody's game is going poorly in your eyes. There are a lot of people who do this. This is a very bad habit that we definitely want to break to at least be able to win more games. The second one is there's nothing to do, or I don't know what to do. To me, these basically mean the same thing. If somebody says to me, I can't do anything, that simply means they don't know what they can do. It is outside of the realm of possibility for them within the confines of the game. The next one is autopilot. This happens a lot when you're winning, and you sort of forget that there's an enemy team in the game because you feel good. It's like the opposite of the my game is everyone's game. You feel so good that you stop making the plays that are correct in order to win the game, and then all of a sudden the enemy team makes a good move, and then you lose because you weren't expecting that, or you didn't do the thing that you were supposed to because you were just winning, so you felt like your default mode would just win you the game when it doesn't. And finally, the misconception of basically every single bracket, all the way up until like the highest of high immortals, thinking that picks dictate who wins the game. I want to be clear, drafting matters. Of course it matters. But for the majority of people, the median MMR is roughly 3K. So if you're 3,000 MMR, your picks probably never matter. And I mean that in the most extreme way. If you can put yourself in a situation and you're playing a hero, and you ask yourself the question, if this pro player was playing my hero, would he win? And that answer is yes, then your pick didn't matter. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to talk about different situations that you can be in within the game, and thinking about like, okay, what do I do if I'm in that situation? So let's talk about the my game is everyone's game thing. There are plenty, and I mean plenty of situations where you could be a core player, you could be a support player, and you could just have a really, really bad lane. And I mean, you know, you die like 5 times, you die 6 times, whatever. You aren't really familiar with the hero matchup that you're against, so you are really struggling and you're having a hard time. Even if you're supposed to do better in that situation, there is a good chance that somebody else on your team is having a better game and at least a good time. And then later on, you're going to be able to contribute in some other way. So obviously this changes dynamically based on what hero that you're playing, what hero the enemy team's playing, and all that good stuff. But specifically for, let's say, offlaners and mid players, you get to make plays around the map. A lot of the hero pool, and this goes for supports too, even if your early game is not good, there's something that you can be doing to still contribute to the game if your lane is not going well. A lot of this stuff usually pertains to the first, let's say, 8 to 10 minutes. Because that's the point where you're majority laning focused, you're sitting there, you're not really getting a lot of CS if you're a core, or you don't feel like you can do that much as a support, and you're kind of just getting beat down. And it doesn't feel good, right? Nobody likes that. But it's always really important to be thinking ahead of like, okay, what heroes in my game are going to be strong and at what time? So you have an offlane hero, it's like a Tide Hunter. You have a mid hero, you know, it could be anything, right? Invoker, this hero scales just well with levels, right? So when you have games like that and you look to another lane and you think, I want to play around this guy when he hits a timing. This is a way that we can like crawl out of that rut. Because when you hit that timing, or the other hero hits that timing and you go help him and it results in kills and stuff, the pace of the game changes. Like, Dota is fluid, okay? This is not about, if I'm behind, I'm always going to be behind. Dota doesn't work that way. When you are behind, you need to take risks, and you need to make plays on the map in order for something new to happen, so that the state of the game will change. The common thing that happens to people is they get behind, and then they stop thinking about what can happen in the game, so then they don't try, and then because they don't try, the game ends, and it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Tons of people do this. I've done this in the past, in games where I probably could have won. I'm not saying I'm an exception. But for everybody that's playing, if your game is going bad, it does not mean you are going to lose, okay? Just wanted to say that little piece regarding that. So the next one is, there's nothing to do. This kind of sounds like it has a negative connotation, but really what it translates to is, I'm unsure as to what needs to happen at this point in the game. Now, this is a knowledge gap. I can't teach every person what to do in every situation, but what I can do is I can say that there are some general rules of thumb that you can apply. This stuff is probably more applicable to supports, in that if you are playing a support, there is always something you can be doing. You can be smoking for your team, you can be stacking camps, you can be trying to make a rotation, you can just be simply taking stock in what's happening in the game and trying to think of what needs to happen next. Does my team need to get Roche? Should we push this tower? You know, how long do we have to wait until this guy hits this timing? In order to figure out what to do, you have to ask yourself the question, you know, what needs to happen? What do I think we should do? Even if you're wrong, starting the thought process in of itself is going to lead you to a conclusion that you would not otherwise get. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand with what I will call autopiloting a little bit later on. But people play or spam heroes to a certain extent where they kind of just do everything intuitively. It's all feel. The problem with that is eventually you're going to encounter situations, or maybe even multiple times the same situation, and you lose to it every time. And maybe you shouldn't be losing every time. So what you have to do at that point is question, okay, is what I'm doing here, is what I am trying to do within the confines of the game that I do every game still working for me? And then you have to question like that belief of your playstyle. And then you have to, you know, figure out, okay, maybe I need to buy this item instead. Maybe this move is bad. Maybe I need to pressure here. The best way to improve at anything is to always question what you're doing. Just always. Is this the right move? You know, is this the right item purchase? Is this objective the one that matters the most for this point in the game? How quickly do we have to end? All these things you have to be asking constantly. Like, Dota's a hard game. And like I said, maybe you make some mistakes, and that's okay too. But if you're just sitting there and you just simply say, I don't know what to do, it's because you're not asking any questions. The next one is autopilot. Autopilot's a tricky thing because a lot of people, they have a tendency to play the same pool of heroes, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you play the same hero for so long, you develop habits, and these habits are typically just things that make you feel good to do. So for example, if you spammed, I don't know, let's say Pango. We're looking at the game screen right now, so I see Pango. Maybe every game you play Pango, you buy a Maelstrom. Maelstrom on Pango is a very cathartic item, okay? You hit a creep wave with a swash, you have a Maelstrom, the whole creep wave dies, it feels great, you know? Dopamine. Very exciting. However, there will be plenty of games where this item is incorrect for a multitude of reasons. Maybe you need to be a hero that needs a Yules because someone else on the other team is rushing Orchid, for example. And if your hero can't push his buttons and you die, then you have no teamfight contribution, and your other heroes, like your safe laner and your off laner, if you're mid, for example, then they can't contribute to the game either. So when you are doing the same thing over and over again, regardless of how many times you've played the hero, again, this is kind of in line with I don't know what to do, or there's nothing to do. Ask yourself what your role is within the game. Say, hey, do I need to be the team fighter? Do I need to be the initiator? Do I need to be the damage? What is my team lacking that I need to fill in order for us to succeed? Or in some cases, it'll just be, what do I need to do to kill the enemy? Right? Even a question like that. Who's the threat on the enemy team? What's going to allow me to kill that guy? Or what is going to kill me? And then itemize accordingly. Now, again, this is going to be trial and error. But if you never think about it, and you're stuck, you know, let's say the player is below like 4,000 MMR, right? Heck, even maybe like 5k MMR. People are very quick to just keep doing the same thing because they've had an amount of success with it. But as Dota is a fluid game and always changes, so should you. Like, you should always be trying to figure out what the next best thing is, or knowing different situations and what will lead you to success based on experience. That should be the benefit of spamming certain heroes or playing the same role or anything like that. You should have a deeper understanding of that role because you play in it. The trap that people get into is that they always do the same stuff and they expect to just magically get better. But that's not how it works. You have to sometimes do things that make you uncomfortable or do things that are different and to have a new experience so that you can register that and then move on to the next thing. So, last thing, and this is one I see all the time. And actually, I have to laugh because I do watch a lot of Dota streams, and a lot of the streams I watch are lower level players because I do like to help people, like try to figure out how to learn or, you know, teach them some of the game. And they'll be on the draft screen and it'll be like an Archon game, okay? So Archon, there's nothing wrong with being Archon, by the way. I'm not flaming Archon players, but you are below the average. And the first thing that I see people do is complain about what heroes people are picking. When you assign blame to something that is outside of your control, you have already removed a huge amount of your growth potential. You're just simply, you're inhabiting a certain mental state that is saying, no matter what happens this game, it ain't on me. And that is a huge problem. Maybe the pick is bad, like objectively. I don't care if it's bad. What I'm saying is, if you are in a bracket that is not, let's say, immortal or higher, your pick probably doesn't mean anything. Yes, they matter in the grand scheme of things and how Dota actually functions, but you don't play anything well enough to say that your pick is the reason why you lost. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but sometimes people need to hear it. I don't even play a hero well enough to say that, right? Like, sometimes I'll get frustrated and I'll just say, yeah, our draft is bad. But really, everyone has an internal monologue where you're like, ah, you messed up this, you did that, you know. Listen to that more. Think about those things when you make a mistake instead of seeing a hero pick and just being like, I don't like this. This is more about your own team's picks than it is the enemy. Everyone's played games against techies. Everyone's played games against Broodmother. It's not always a pleasant experience. But this is more about, like, looking at your own team's picks and instead of thinking, I don't like this, how do we make it work? How do we make it work for us? Like, what's the thing that I can do to enable this guy if I'm a support? Or what's the thing that I can do on my hero to compensate for whatever perceived weakness that I think we have? And then do that thing instead. I think that a lot of people will find that when you approach the game with the correct mentality, not only do you learn way faster and improve faster, but you also just have a better time. Because you're not existing in that mentality of, I'm already annoyed because of this. And it's a really dangerous and slippery slope when you get into a game and you're all of a sudden like, you see a hero that you don't like and you're like, oh, I don't like that hero. Then you're just frustrated, right? And you're already frustrated, so you're thinking about what you need to do in the game less already. Dota is an incredibly challenging game. Heck, it might even be the hardest game. I don't know. It's really, really hard. And it's even harder when you're not putting your mental capacity towards what you can do to win as opposed to what you don't like about your team. So I wanted to keep this video pretty short. I hope that some of these points kind of, I don't want to say opened your eyes, but at least make you a bit more conscious about what you're doing when you're playing and trying to break some habits that maybe you have. I know I still have my own habits that I'm working on as well. And I don't always succeed, but gotta keep trying. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys want to catch me live, you can do so on twitch.tv/Draskyl, same as in the YouTube. Hope you guys are all doing wonderful, and we'll see you soon.